Hey everyone, Lexi here, and thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm making a full shaker card using some dies from Simon Says Stamp. I love these balloon dies, especially to make my cards balloon shaped instead of a classic rectangle. Gives it a little extra something something if you know what I mean. Anyways, let's get started. So first, I'm getting my Tim Holtz dressings ready, and I'm going to watercolor the background. I'm using Canson 140 pound cold press watercolor paper, and I really like this paper. It doesn't seem to warp on me too much unless I use like excessive amounts of water, or sometimes when I use my heat tool, which you'll see me use later. So right now I'm just smushing my inks onto a plain white board. You can also use a plastic bag or a craft sheet, whichever you have in stock. I'm smushing extra of the cracked pistachio because it's a light color and I seem to need more of that to match the saturation of the rest. So I'm using my Pentel water brush pen to paint on the inks. I really love water brush pens because you don't have to have a paintbrush and a cup of water. It's just an all-in-one tool and it's really, really great. So I'm using cracked pistachio, then peacock feathers, mermaid lagoon, blueprint sketch, and finally chipped sapphire. I absolutely love this color combination. It's definitely my go-to. Sometimes I'll leave off chipped sapphire, but the other ones I use all the time. So here, I'm just checking to make sure that my die cut will fit, and I won't have any extra white space when I die cut. And then I decided to go back over with blueprint sketch just because I felt like there wasn't enough. And I'm gonna set that with my heat tool, make sure everything's nice and dry. Now that that's all set, I'm gonna clean off my board with a baby wipe and a dry paper towel. So here's the final outcome of the background. I love these colors, and I like that it's not perfectly blended either, and that you can see the brush strokes. It gives it that more artistic look. So now it's time to die cut, and I'm getting out my Cuttlebug and arranging my watercolor panel with the balloon die. Sorry, it's a little off camera. And so I'm going to run that through and get a nice die cut out of that. I was going to put that away, but while I'm at it, I'm going to die cut a white balloon out of cardstock. That will be my card base. And also, I'm going to die cut 2 pieces of acetate that will become the shaker bit of the card. So now that die cutting is all done, I'm going to put away my Cuttlebug and dies and move on to making the shaker. So I have my 2 pieces of acetate, and I'm trying to keep those together, my card base and my watercolor panel. So for the shaker, I just have an extra spare cutting mat, 2 pieces of acetate, and to make the pocket, I'm going to use my fuse tool by We Are Memory Keepers. I've been letting this heat up for a while now, about 30 to 40 minutes, because you're going to want this nice and hot so that it actually will fuse the 2 pieces of acetate together. I used this once before when it wasn't hot enough, and the whole thing came falling apart on me after I put the sequins in, of course, and it was just a huge mess. So take it from me, lesson learned, make sure to get that thing nice and hot. So here's my thing with this tool. It's meant to roll, but for some reason it won't roll for me, so I'm just kind of dabbing it around the whole edge, making sure not to leave any gaps for any sequins to fall out, because like I said before, that's just a mess. I've left the top open so that I can put in the sequins. I'm going to bring over my watercolor panel to see what color sequins I want to use. So here I'm just putting in the sequins. I want a pretty generous amount because it's going to be a full shaker card, but I don't want too many where you can't read the sentiment underneath. And these 2 sequins that I'm using are from Little Things by Lucy, and I love her sequin packs because they have little extra embellishments in there like hearts and stars and all sorts of things instead of just plain sequins. They're really, really great. So after adding these, I felt like it was missing just a little something, so I went and grabbed my stash of Martha Stewart sequins, and I picked out the little gold stars just to add a little bit more color other than just blues and whites. After combining those, giving it a careful shake, and putting it up to the background, I ended up being satisfied with that. And now I'm going to close the top off, and that'll be it for the shaker. Look how much fun that is. Oh my gosh, I just love shaker cards. So now it's time to add the sentiment to our watercolor background, and I'm using this stamp set from Mama Elephant. This is one of my absolute favorite birthday stamp sentiments. The script on this is just absolutely beautiful. It's one of my absolute favorites. Just love it. So I've got my stamp on my acrylic block, and I'm going to prep my panel with some anti-static powder. That way I don't have any rogue embossing powder sticking anywhere I don't really want it to. I'm going to ink up my stamp with some Versamark ink, which is a super sticky ink, perfect for embossing. And after that's all set, I'm going to stamp that, give it a nice firm press. That way I get a nice impression, and then I'm going to add my embossing powder. This is gold embossing powder from Ranger, and it's a beautiful gold. It's actually really good for the holidays, so keep that in mind. So I use a coffee filter to catch the extra embossing powder, just because it makes it a lot easier to get it back into the container. And before I heat set that, I'm going to brush off some of the little extra specks of embossing powder that stuck around. You can use a small dry paintbrush to do this, or I just use my finger. Just be sure not to smudge any of the stamp part. So now that that's all set, I'm going to heat set that, and you can really see the beautiful gold embossing come to life. I just love watching heat embossing. It's so therapeutic and beautiful. It's fantastic. Look at that shine. Oh my gosh, just love it. So now I'm going to wipe off my stamp with my baby wipe and put that back with the set. Next, I need to attach the shaker to the background, so I'm going to grab my multi-medium from Ranger, and I have the precision tip applicator, so it's easy to apply a more precise amount. Here I'm just applying a thin line around the edge where I fused the shaker shep, and I'm going to carefully line the background to and press up. Words. Anyways, I'm going to line up my background and press firmly to make that stick in place. I'm adding some acrylic blocks along with placing my Cuttlebug on top to really add some pressure. I'm going to let this sit for about an hour or so and make sure that it's really stuck in place. After being sure it's nice and secure, I'm going to take that white balloon that I made earlier and make my card base. I'm going to take my Martha Stewart mini scoreboard and make a score line about 1/4 inch from the top and use my bone folder to make a good crease. Next, I'm going to put some adhesive on the little flap and carefully line up the panel with the base and adhere them together. Once that's done, I'm going to add a little detail and tie the bow onto the base of the balloon, because what's a balloon without a little bow at the end? Yeah. And finally, for my last step, I'm going to stamp my Handmade by Lexi stamp just to make it personalized. And with that, this card is finished. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope this helped and maybe gave you a little bit of inspiration. I'll be making more card videos soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so you know when those videos go up. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much again for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you next time. Bye!